All right, Bill, everywhere you go, right, go out to dinner, everywhere you go to pay something, right, you're hearing about credit card fees, how you pay for them, all that fun stuff. A lot of our clients, right, dental practice owners are talking about this. So this is a super fun episode to talk about how you can fix it, how you can make it right, how you can implement something.
Yeah, as we went through it, I was thinking through all the places I go where now it's just an expectation there's going to be a surcharge hit on a credit card. And it's my mindset has kind of changed, and I still like the convenience of the credit card and the points. So I love hearing about it. And, when we start getting into numbers and that your general rule of 1%, which I always love, Jared, it causes, it creates a really nice conversation.
Yeah, it definitely adds up fast. You guys are going to enjoy the conversation we just had with Stephen and Roman with Nadapayments and talking about credit card fees and kind of that silent tax, if you will, that you're kind of getting charged with. So, guys, you're going to enjoy this. Have a good one.
Welcome to Dental Momentum, the podcast dedicated to lively discussions on business and financial strategies tailored for dental business owners. At Duckett Ladd, we're committed to transforming your business journey and supporting you at every stage. Join us as we delve into the keys to long-term practice success, from cutting-edge accounting and strategic tax planning to personalized business strategies. Together, let's propel your dental practice forward with unstoppable momentum.
All right, Bill, we talk about all the time, right? Do you have a production problem, collection problem, spending problem? Just envision this in my mind a little bit here, right? You're producing the dentistry, you're collecting the dentistry, and then when you're collecting that dentistry, I'm going to say you're then maybe hit with a silent tax. We always talk about tax all the time, but maybe what's that silent tax? Credit card fees. You're hitting, you're taking a little bit off the top, right? When somebody's hitting that credit card against the tap thing at the front desk, that sort of thing. So it's all over the place right now, right? Right. Credit card fees, how you compensate for those, what do you do? And so we're bringing these gentlemen on, Stephen and Roman, to really talk about how maybe some dental practice owners are eliminating that silent tax. I think that's fair to say it that way. We'll see what these guys say. But Stephen, Roman, I want to throw it to you guys, and maybe we'll just kind of hit it on Stephen first. Why did you guys kind of go all in here, like creating this company that you have? Where was the issue? Where did you see the problem? Maybe specifically in dentistry by going all in on this concept.
Well, initially when we started in this industry back in 2010, we were doing traditional processing, and we weren't just doing it for dentistry. We were doing it for any type of business that wanted to accept credit cards. And what we realized is that every time a business owner would switch over to a company, they would get promised the world, low rates, low fees, and then 3 to 6 months later, they started getting these additional fees on their statement. Their rates started going up. So it just became a back and forth between business owners and merchant companies where they would get an initial great rate and then it would just constantly jump up. And a lot of business owners got frustrated and they took the matter into their own hands and they started to pass on the fees themselves to the customers. And Visa Mastercard noticed it. Some states started noticing it. So this became kind of a process where Visa Mastercard stepped in and said, okay, guys, if you really want to do it, you're going to follow our guidelines on how to properly do it. And once we realized that Visa Mastercard stepped in to allow you to do this legally, we kind of pivoted to that structure. And the way we fell into the dental world is we did a Greater New York Dental meeting one year back in 2017, and we realized that we love dentists. We love what you do. We love your business model. We love the softwares that they use. And there's a lot of issues that dentists had that we realized we could help them improve on. So we pivoted only to dental. We pivoted only to surcharging. We rebranded and we became Nadapayments.
So, for people who don't know exactly what that means, we've heard a lot of our clients say they're doing it. We don't even know what that means behind the scenes, guys. Like to move from a traditional credit card model to a surcharge. Like for people who don't even know what we're talking about, like walk us through the very basics of what does that even mean?
Yeah, so a traditional model is what most business owners, practice owners, you name it, are used to from prior to 2017, maybe even now as well, right? They are accepting credit cards. This is a convenience for the customer or the patient. And in exchange, there's a cost to this. Visa, Mastercard have their own costs to this, so they pay these processing fees, these merchant fees. For as long as time, this has been a standard for the business owner to pay these fees. But what happened was there was this shift where surcharging became compliant, where you no longer have to have the same price for credit, cash, debit, all of this. You can now have a credit price and a debit price, and you can pass that cost to the customer to offset your expenses and increase your bottom line. So when we pivoted and we pioneered surcharging for healthcare and dentistry in particular, practices were still at the time, they were all paying for credit card processing fees. So you're spending, $1,000, $2,000 a month on this. Moving forward, you're not. Moving forward, practices are eliminating 80% of their costs or 100% of their costs, depending on what they're passing on to their patients. At the same time, they're giving their patients an option on how to pay. So it's a win-win both for the practice and the patient.
So jump in. Let's get specifics, right? We're accountants. Let's use $1,000 charge, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Right. Walk me through. Right. You got $1,000 charge. Patients at the front desk. How does it work? How's the communication? All that fun stuff. Just how does it look?
Yeah, it works in full transparency. So, besides state compliances, which we tick depending on which state we're working with, where the practice is, the surcharge will always be presented in full transparency. So, on the system itself with us, on the device, everywhere across the board, it will incorporate the base amount, which is the treatment cost, the surcharge, and the total. So when it is presented to the patient, it's presented as, hey, this is $1,030. A 3% surcharge is what it is that's passed on to the patient. So, hey, this is $1,030. If you pay by debit, it's $1,000. How would you like to pay? And it's presented in full price. Let them know that it's lesser than. It's giving the patient the option. This way, it is not an imposition of the fee. That surcharge is only applied to a credit card transaction, because if that patient pays with debit, FSA, HSA, check, cash, they do not get charged a surcharge. They're still paying the base amount. But most people still like to use their credit card for points and rewards, and they can certainly do so. There's just a surcharge associated with it, which for them is now a standard. They see this everywhere they go, from utility bills online and government, municipality, hair salon, nail salon, restaurant, bar, you name it. But with us, with dental practices, they're having that choice. So, hey, it's $1,030. If you pay by debit, it's $1,000. How would you like to pay? And the patient is more than happy to choose.
So you're not asking how you would like to pay beforehand. You're ringing it up, if you will, with that surcharge on there, and then the question is asked.
Correct. The way that we see it and the way that we have our staff and ourselves train everybody from every state practically, it's all about transparency. Yeah. No reason to beat around the bush. Tell the patient what the total amount is. There are no surprises this way. It works so well because they appreciate that. They know exactly what's going on. There are no hidden fees. There's nothing surprising them with this.
So that's a perfect entry point into what probably a lot of doctors, I would presume, are concerned about in this move would be that patient experience and how this move would be perceived. Oh, my greedy dentist is, putting all this treatment out there, and now they're trying to gig me for the fees. Walk me through, kind of how you guys view, from your history, with the clarity you guys offer, it's perceived from a patient perspective.
It's accepted across the board. We have about 4,000 dental practices on board. Not one practice has ever gone back to traditional processing. Not one practice has ever lost a patient over this. It's all about the presentation. It's all about how you're showing the patient that you're actually doing them a favor, because instead of increasing your prices across the board, you're actually only surcharging credit cards in order to keep other forms of payments lower, right? This actually solves a really big problem for insurance offices because they're not allowed to increase their fees. So they have to find certain ways to kind of eliminate that expense. So as far as patient acceptance, it's pretty much 100% across the board. Out of 10 patients, maybe 2 patients will say something, but those are typically the patients that the staff already knows because they usually say something about anything. The sky is too blue today. It's too hot
Yeah.
today.
Be
But other
frustrated
than
about
that,
some.
it's accepted very well. Yeah.
Well, quick follow up: how many do you guys tend to find move to the debit card option where they don't want to pay that 3%?
So typically we see about a 15 to 20% increase from the standard debit acceptance because a lot of offices still accept debit. They don't realize it. But patients still pay with a debit card. About 20% of their credit card sales are debit. That increases by about 15 to 20% in total.
Okay.
Interesting. So regarding maybe communication to patients here, is there some sort of mass communication that's done across the board, or do patients see this, if you will, when they come in, if that makes sense?
Depends on the office, right? Some offices like to do an email blast to let them know that, hey, as of January 1st, we're implementing a surcharge in order to keep costs down for other forms of payment. Or some offices will politely let the patient know, hey, by the way, we have a 3% surcharge. Bring your debit card for your appointment. Or some offices don't say anything. They have the signage and they'll let the patient know at the time of quoting the treatment plan. So that really depends on the office and how comfortable they are with communicating and when they want to communicate it to the patient, but we guide them through the whole process, whichever way they decide to go with.
A quick follow-up too, like I think you said at the beginning, do you guys provide them, I'm going to use the word device or something that goes up front with your deal, or how's that work? You said...
Yeah, we provide signage.
Yeah.
Yeah, we provide signage, but our technology provides everything else. So our terminals will automatically apply the surcharge. They will itemize it. They will distinguish between credit and debit payments. So that technology makes it very simple for the office to implement this program without having any issues when it comes to calculations, choosing who pays the fee or who doesn't pay the fee, with software integrations, and so on.
So you certainly get into the tech, but I kind of want to dive in to compliance because I think that's a big part of what you guys do. And so when you were mentioning that at the very beginning, Jared, about this is a conversation we have with our clients, you guys mentioned, we've heard this a lot lately, people moving to a model where they want to do that. So my question to you guys is how many people do you see do that but try to do it yourself kind of model, DIY? And if so, like what kind of issues do you see that tend to pop up, or horror stories do you have if someone tries to just implement this? Because we hear people say it. We have no idea how they do it, though. I'd just be curious if you guys have seen that.
Yeah, we have seen this. So sometimes practices will be like, well, why do I need a company to do this? I'll just add my own 3, 4, whatever percent to it, right? Then what happens down? So initially it's fine, right? Like nobody knows that nobody is looking at this at first, but then down the line there are issues with this. So one, you open up yourself to subject to a penalty from Visa Mastercard. First it'll be $1,000, then $5, then $20. So that's not good. It can get your tax ID black flagged, right? So if somebody makes a complaint that you're adding on a fee but it's not transparent, that's not good. That's when they come around looking, which they eventually will. So that's one. Second of all, besides the compliance and legality of it, it becomes a nightmare for P&L statements, accounting. Some practices will try to do this and then they realize they have no idea that some cards are not actually debit cards or credit cards and they're applying the fee incorrectly. Then what they're doing is they're posting the payment into patients' ledgers with the fee cooked in. So if it's $100 as an example, they slapped on their own fee, it's $103. The receipt can't distinguish this. The receipt will just say $103. Meanwhile, on a proper model, it will break it down, $103, $103 total. They're posting $103 into a patient's ledger. All of a sudden, that patient's $100 treatment now has a $3 credit on the account. That's ruining your P&Ls. There's nothing accurate on there. Your accountant will go mad at the end of the year looking at this. And you only realize this when you're doing maybe quarterly reviews, right? Or maybe annual, however each practice does it. Everyone's different, right? So in terms of compliance, in terms of legality, you have to be registered with card brands like Visa, MasterCard, and so on, which we do for you when you come on board for dental owners. The signage has to be present, which we provide in an acrylic frame. It's not the most important part, but it is one nonetheless. And the most important part of the compliance is that it has to be shown in dollars and cents. So when you enter the amount and the terminal or the system online or wherever is showing the breakdown of that price, it's showing the base, the surcharge, and total, where it's actually going to recognize credit and debit on its own. So Steve, I hear Steve clicking away. He's going to show it to you right now.
If you guys could see the
Dude,
surcharge
you
is
rang that up fast,
itemized.
man.
Yeah. So as you can
So
see,
at
the
this
total
point-
is 103.
Yeah. So hey, it's 103. If you pay by debit, it's $100. When you click pay and then tap a card, insert it or whatever, the system will recognize this on its own. With our integrated models, it will post the base amount into the patient's ledger automatically for you. If it's some practices choose to be non-integrated, they'll post the base amount into the patient's ledger themselves. Doesn't really matter how that's done. It's still done the same way because at the end of the day, our reports will give it to you in 3 layers: the base, the surcharge, and total for the day, so that the office manager or the accountant and the doctor themselves, they're not subtracting anything and doing any kind of math. They can just reconcile from one report to another to the bank account without having to do any math. It's all right there for them.
So let me ask a follow-up question to that on the compliance. And again, this is going to be an ignorant question. I apologize. But when you talk about like compliance, is this, like you said, the credit cards who have these rules, or are there state laws you have to follow? I mean, is it a combination? Like really,
Both.
what are
It's
you
a
in compliance
combination.
with?
Yeah, it's a combination. The majority of this is in compliance with the card brand networks,
Okay.
meaning Visa, MasterCard, and so on and so forth. States have their own compliances based on so like for instance, like Connecticut and Massachusetts, they're doing something known as dual pricing. It's an all or none situation. They don't do surcharging. You could pass the fee for everything or nothing at all. That's how they want to do it. Other states have certain rules that you need to follow. For instance, I'll give you an example. Like we're based out of New York and Florida, right? I live in New York. New York and California have they needed to spell it out to their business owners because people were trying to add the fee on themselves, right? So they made a clause saying that you cannot have hidden fees, meaning you cannot add your own fee to it. But surcharging is not that. Surcharging is a fully disclosed and transparent program where it discloses this information. So we follow the state guidelines, we follow the card compliance guidelines. It's a combination of both. You hit it right between the eyes. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward the ground rules pretty much follow the same thing across all states.
Yeah. Steven, you were going to say something, man. Jump in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of the compliance, so you are not allowed to surcharge debit cards. That is the main compliance from Visa Mastercard. So when offices or business owners are doing it themselves, there's no way for them to physically differentiate between credit and debit unless the card itself says debit on it. A lot of the times the staff, they don't pay attention to this, right? And they might by accident charge a debit card, and that's a big no-no. Our technology will automatically detect debit. The staff doesn't need to select credit or debit. The patient doesn't need to enter a PIN number. It'll automatically say, hey, I recognize this is a debit card, and it's going to drop the surcharge. The other thing I wanted to mention, when Roman said all or nothing for the fee in Connecticut and Massachusetts, he meant for credit and debit. So in those states, we don't differentiate credit or debit. We just have a card or cash price, like you've noticed gas stations have, right? So the dual pricing comes in where you quote the patient a total in a card price, regardless whether it's credit or debit. They cannot legally call it a surcharge, and it cannot be written as a surcharge on the receipt. And then they quote them a cash price. Every other state allows surcharging. Some states can cap the amount you're surcharging, but Visa Mastercard caps it at 3%. So if a business is applying a fee that's more than 3%, they can also get into some trouble. They can get the fine.
And I think that's a great question. Another follow-up question is for those folks who are kind of doing it themselves, do we tend to find that they are, I hate to use this word, but ignorant of the law and out of compliance? And if so, what are some of the penalties that they could face?
Yeah, the penalties from Visa MasterCard, like Roman mentioned, the first penalty is $1,000 right away. That's the warning. Second offense is $5,000. Third is $25,000. Fourth, they just blacklist you, they shut you down, and you can no longer process credit cards. Now, we don't find many businesses doing it on their own. The typical businesses that used to do this on their own were wholesalers or suppliers or laboratories. Those were the types of businesses that would realistically do it on their own. Dental practice owners, we don't see too many of them doing it on their own because it's just logistically a nightmare when you're doing it on your own. But when you have a company like Nadapayments step in, it makes it so easy to implement that there's no issues there. So it makes sense to say, you know what, let's give it a go. Let's eliminate those fees and see how we can do it.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you guys right, in my simple brain, I'm saying, man, by using Nadapayments, I'll say this very high level, two things, right? It's a cover your ass. I mean, you're really CYA here on compliance. Like, you're not having to cover your own ass. You guys are covering their ass to be like, man, this is what you got to do. This is what states you live in. This is, you operate in. This is the law. But then also from an operations perspective, man. I mean, just having you guys come in and I'm assuming, let's talk practice management system type stuff. You guys basically plug in with most of the PMSs and integrations and stuff like that, or maybe just talk through logistics on how you tell a dental practice owner from an operations perspective, this is now what you do.
It's not that much different from what they currently do. That's the beauty of it. You have payment processing, right? No one's new to this. Everybody's accepting credit cards nowadays. The office that onboarded with us today, they accepted credit cards yesterday. The difference is the surcharge that's implemented, which is a very simple concept. Again, very easy to implement because their patients, even though that office has not done that yet before, their patients have seen that everywhere else they've went. So it becomes very easy to implement. The solution that we provide, the technology, so like whether you want integration into, let's say, Open Dental, LegalSoft, Dentrix, whatever, our system will allow you to show the breakdown of the price to the patient, be transparent, have them make payments in person or over the phone or text to pay, email to pay, cards on file, automatic payment plans, payment links on the website, QR codes for statements. However they want to take a payment, they can go ahead and accept it. And the beauty of the integration is that it will post automatically to the patient's ledger, to the patient's account. We have some practices that choose not to be integrated, even if they can be, right? Because it's a personal choice. They like to do the way things they do. But overall, this becomes something that is transparent from the practice to the patient. So really easy to implement. Turnaround time's about a week or so to get set up with us. And practices, the one thing Steve and I hear every time practices on board is that I could have done this sooner. I could have done this 2 years ago or something like that. So we never push, we never do paid advertisements, nothing like that. We're always referred through dental groups and dental communities of word of mouth, and that's how we've grown over the years. But then everyone comes to that same conclusion that I could have done this, 2 years ago and saved $60,000 already by now. But we never push. Everyone's on their own timeline.
So maybe your new marketing slogan, right? Don't take it from the accountant, but it's not only a cover your ass, but it's not a pain in the ass to implement. You know what I mean?
That's
I was going to jot that down.
We'll
You
trademark
could use
it
that
right
on your website. Quote from Jared.
But
I mean,
Yeah,
what I'm
I
hearing
like
though is that if people have a concern that this is an undertaking, that this is going to take a lot of administrative time, that's going to change process procedures, that we just don't have time to mess with it. In your minds, this is a smooth implementation that can happen rapidly and not really disrupt any flow of cash or credit, cards coming into the practice.
correct. A lot of the times what we also see is we kind of upgrade the office's way of accepting those payments, because what we've noticed is a lot of the times practice owners, they'll deal with their bank and they'll get a credit card machine from their bank, and it's very old school where they have to print the receipts, they have to scan them, they have to take payments separately elsewhere with a different company. And now all of a sudden one practice owner has one company for text message payments, and then their bank for the credit card terminal, and then maybe they have another company for virtual payments on the computer. So now they're paying 3 annual fees, they're paying 3 monthly fees, and what we do is we consolidate all of that into one solution, and we upgrade the way they accept payments, and we make their life easier when it comes to the operational aspect of it. So that's something we also bring to the table, and that's a big problem that we solve specifically for offices that are, not integrated, or they are using 4 different companies to do the same thing. And now the staff needs to know 4 different logins. They need to know how to use 4 different dashboards. With us, it's an all-in-one solution.
Yeah. So let's go through another example here, and I'm not going to say like sell me or like we do a role play here thing, but like Let's say I'm $1 million, let's just use an easy, $1 million dental practice, just a GP practice.
Yep.
Like roughly, I mean, the listeners are probably wondering this out there as they're thinking about their specific practice. Like, how much money are we talking about? Like, if I implement Nadapayments, right, you guys got to get paid too. But like, what's the estimated annual savings there that I should expect as that practice owner?
Let's say $1 million in credit card sales. You're at $80K a month or so. Most practice owners are paying, let's say, 2.8, 3% or something like that to accept credit cards. So let's say they're paying roughly. Let's be kind. Let's say they have a really good rate. Let's say they're paying $2,000 a month in fees for $80,000 to process, right? Which is a good rate. What they would be spending with us for credit card processing moving forward is something along the lines of $300-400 instead of $2,000.
Oh, wow.
So immediately, let's say $20,000 a year in annual savings for $80,000 in processing on a monthly basis, which is roughly $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And that
So
kind of
basically
gets back to, Jared, where we talk about the percentage points. You know, I mean, like,
2 points right there.
yeah, when
And
in
this
today's
is-
economy, percentage points can make a big difference for a practice.
It's huge. It's huge. Everything adds up, increasing the bottom line. I mean, like, I think practice owners know this more than everybody. We have like an even split of practices who are fee for service than who are with insurance, and then the ones who are with insurance are probably dying to have those rates increased for insurance to pay them back, but they can't do that. It doesn't work that way. So, doing something like this for those practices, huge relief of an overhead. And this is like, let's say $20,000 a year on the conservative side. A lot of the times we will have practices that they're paying 3, 4, 5% on credit card processing with somebody that they gotten into bed with. They didn't know what they were doing at the time because they were just starting their practice. The rates have gone up. They haven't paid attention to it. All of a sudden, they wake up 3 years later, 4 years later, they're paying 5% for processing. We see this all the time. Savvy dentists who are really on top of it, they're probably paying the lower rates, of course, but even with a really good rate, you could still eliminate the bulk of your processing fees.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, man. Got to look at those financial statements monthly. You know what I mean? Or
Absolutely.
that stuff will get out of hand.
I encourage it all the time. I'm surprised how many people don't, but if you're not doing it monthly, we're all busy, at least run it every quarter.
I have a question for you guys. You've looked at merchant statements before, right? You know how they come with like 8 different pages, interchange fees, this fee, that fee. Wouldn't it be easier when you just get a one-page statement? You see what you collected in surcharges, you see what you're paying for debit out of pocket, and that's it. There's no PCI fees, no annual fees, no cryptic retail merchandise fees or this fee or that fee. So we also simplify the accounting part of it for the practice, right? They don't have to go through 8 pages of decrypting their data just to know, hey, is this fee, am I supposed to pay this fee? Is this something that wasn't there last month? Why is it on there this month, right? So with us, it's very simple. It's one page. You see what you paid out of pocket. You see what you collected from the patients, and that's it. It takes you about 5 minutes to read my statement, figure it out, and you're off going about your day. With most traditional statements, you're sitting there. You got to get a consultant to review your statement, to negotiate your rate for you, and just becomes a headache that doctors just don't have time for, so they give up on the concept, and they end up still paying, for the next year a higher price than they should.
I would say that's probably true, is that they hire someone who they met, they like, they know, they trust, and they probably plug and play and just set it and don't even consider it. So a follow-up question to you would be, for someone in that boat, what on those statements or what are they getting that to you tells you they should be reaching out to Nadapayments and having a conversation?
A lot of the times, companies would like to add what we call BSPs. Okay, there's something called PCI compliance. Every business owner needs to be compliant by answering a couple of questions once a year on a survey. If they don't answer this, most companies will say, hey, you are not PCI compliant, I'm going to charge you a fee. That fee is a pure profit fee. It could range anywhere from $29 to $159 a month, and that's every month. Doctors that only look at their statements quarterly will only notice it 3 to 6 months down the line, and they've already paid $300 to $600 in fees just for not being PCI compliant. You should be PCI compliant. There's a way to do it, but you shouldn't be charged a fee for not being compliant. You should be encouraged to do it. And then there's companies that will charge you a PCI compliance fee, meaning that you are compliant, but they're still adding a monthly fee. Right? They're like, hey, you're
That sounds like a
compliant. We're
BS
going to
fee.
keep
Yeah,
we're going to
it's-
keep
it's
your
like-
compliance, so we're going to charge your fee. Then there's
Yeah.
annual fees. Then there's a security protection fee. Then there's an integrity fee. All these little things, $20 here a month, $30 here, they start slowly adding them up, hoping that the practice doesn't notice it. And then a year later, when the practice calls in, oh, no problem, you don't need the service, we'll take it off, but we're not going to credit you the money back. So a lot of the times that's what we see that adds to that bottom line effective rate at the end of the month.
Yeah, I've always seen. I've never. I mean, those credit card statements you mentioned. I mean, your eyes just start glazing over, and my mindset is always like usually where there's complexity, there's a reason they make it complex, so they don't want you to understand it, right? I'm not saying that's the case, but it probably is. You mentioned, we talked about the power of 1%, or we mentioned that 2% deal in that $1 million example. I mean, think about practices, Bill, in regard to, you got 3, 4, 5 practices, whatever. I mean, 7 million, 10 million in collections. That 20% is not, I'm sorry, that $20,000 number is a lot higher, right, at the 2% give or take deal on those big
Yeah.
deals. Yeah. So maybe just a big overall question here as we kind of wrap up, but I think I know what you guys are going to say, but like, what's the downside? As somebody listening out there, they're like, yeah, this all sounds great, but like, is there a downside? What's the downside to looking into Nadapayments or how this works?
I honestly don't have one.
I don't know what their downside is to it.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why. It's the same reason why we never have contracts and startup costs and cancellation fees and anything like that. And we tell practices, keep who you have right now. Come on board. You have a month transitional period anyway, right? You can do whatever you want. Come on board. Start processing with us. If you don't like it, cancel. No problem. Nobody ever does. Everybody cancels their previous processor and comes on board because they ask the same question, like, what's the downside? Realistically, to piggyback what Steve said earlier, yes, there will be that 1 or 2 patients that month that might say, like, oh, well, what's this surcharge? But then they just pay by debit and opt out. Like, they're not covering $20,000 in fees for that practice for the year. So there really is no downside because the patient has a choice and the practice is eliminating a huge overhead.
So just a real quick global question before we wrap up is, kind of looking at how, we have consolidation, we have fragmentation, we have all kinds of forces going on in dentistry. How many percentage-wise would you say have kind of moved to the surcharge model? Is it still pretty early in that process, or do you think more and more have moved so it's a higher percent than you would think?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say for the percentage because there's 280,000 dental dentists, right? How many practice owners? A lot of them are DSOs. I mean, we only have about 4,000 ourselves, right? And that's like a drop in the bucket. But the difference is what we're noticing now is that, before the conversation was, I don't want to be the first person to do it. Nobody in my area is doing it. I don't want to upset my patients. Now the conversation is, hey, tell me more about surcharging. I keep hearing about it. I need to know more. How can I implement it?
My
So
friend is
that's-
doing it. I was referred by colleagues, so it's become
Yeah.
so well known. It can't be
So-
ignored, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely catching a lot of traction where the shift is changing. Where before you were ahead of the curve, now you're on the curve or behind the curve. I think right now everybody's on the curve of finding out, hey, what's surcharging? How can I do it? Tell me more about it. What does it entail? How much money am I going to save? Does this make sense for me?
But more importantly, the patient is on the curve of understanding that this is kind of the new way of doing business in today's economy.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a fair statement to say for sure.
It's kind of like that curve, Bill, that I don't know who some famous author did it, but like the early adopters. and-
Innovation curve, yeah.
Yeah, the innovation curve.
Yeah, exactly. This is good stuff, guys. So just maybe one follow-up question, and then I'll throw it to you guys. Any practice size this makes sense for, I'm assuming? no matter how
Yeah.
small, how big?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just basically as
course.
all the way around. So how can people reach out to you guys? People out there are going to want to reach out to you guys and listen like, man, let me talk to Rome, let me talk to Steven. How do they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, just visit nadapayments.com. We have all of our pricing there. We're transparent. We're not hiding anything. We are not tailoring anything to any specific practice. Everybody gets the same treatment across the board. Nadapayments.com. They can fill out or get started. Our team member will reach out to them same day, explain the program, and set a demo to show them what our software looks like, what the patients see, what the staff is able to do, what kind of tools we provide to make their life easier. So yeah, they could just visit nadapayments.com, and they can mention your podcast that they heard you on, and we'll give them a discount.
Hey, you heard it right here. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, eliminate that silent tax, right? Well, Stephen, Roman, we appreciate it. You guys can tell. I mean, I love the statistic, right? Everybody that's switched over has never left back. That says something about the quality of service that you guys provide and the value it provides to them. So I appreciate you jumping on. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes so you guys can reach out to these guys and have a conversation for sure. But Stephen, Roman, appreciate the time, man.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for having us.